Hey everybody, welcome to the Steady Steps podcast. Really glad you're here today. My name is Brian Volpone. I'll never forget when my friend Coy told me that I was a people pleaser. This was way back in the 90s. I don't think I'd ever even heard the phrase before. And I was a youth pastor, and I had a family in my youth group, and let's say that they were pretty high maintenance. And they had given me a bunch of complaints about something I'd done. I was feeling a lot of self-induced pressure to make them happy. And I was telling my friend Coy about this, and he pointed out the flaw in my thinking, that I was spending way too much energy trying to win their approval. I didn't really have the words to express it back then, but what I was doing was really unhealthy and unproductive. And I'd love to say that ever since he pointed that out, I haven't struggled with this problem. But that would be a lie. People-pleasing is an almost universal challenge. Most of us feel the pressure to make other people happy, and honestly, many times it's to our own detriment. But the good news is that you can improve on this, and there are some concrete steps that you can take to overcome approval addiction. So let's talk about that.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something pretty common, actually. This habit of always needing people to approve of us. For a lot of us, it just looks like being nice, right? Or, cooperative, being a good team player. But what we found is that, it's not always that simple. Over time, chasing that approval can actually chip away at who you really are. It builds anxiety and can even make you act against your own value.
Exactly. And that's what we want to tackle today. Our goal really is to unpack the hidden costs of this, let's call it, approval addiction, and then give you a kind of roadmap to move towards, genuine autonomy.
Autonomy, yeah.
Because true freedom, the kind that sticks, it comes from making choices based on your own integrity, not just waiting for someone else's okay.
Okay, let's dig into that difference then, because people-pleasing, it really does look like kindness a lot of the time. So how do we tell them apart? What's the sort of core thing happening underneath?
It really boils down to the motive. And more specifically, where you're placing your sense of self-worth. You see, this kind of pathological approval seeking, it's basically a habit where your value feels like it completely depends on how others react to you in the moment. So genuine kindness might say, I see someone needs help and I can offer it. But approval addiction thinks, if I help them, they'll like me. And that means I'm okay, I'm good. It sets up this almost transactional belief. Being liked equals being worthy.
Which is dangerous. And it's ironic too, isn't it? Because you do it to keep things smooth, keep the peace in relationships.
Right.
But the side effect, slow but sure, is that your own voice kind of gets erased. People know a version of you, yeah, but it's the approved version, not the real you hiding underneath.
And connecting that to the bigger picture,
Sure.
the long-term emotional burden is just immense. It's way more than just feeling a bit stressed.
Yeah.
We're talking about a serious mental load, trying to constantly manage everyone else's perceptions and expectations.
Yeah, let's spell out those costs, because they really stack up. First off, there's just sheer burnout, right? From always saying yes when you maybe don't have the energy or, frankly, the desire. You're just spending emotional energy you don't actually have.
Definitely. And tied right into that is the anxiety. It's relentless. It's not just everyday worry. It's this specific anxiety driven by trying to juggle everyone's needs, your boss, your partner, friends, family. It's like you've made yourself the manager of everyone else's happiness.
Yeah.
An impossible job.
Totally unsustainable. But the one that really struck me was the resentment. That slow burn you start to feel, even towards people you genuinely love. And it's because deep down, you feel unseen, maybe even a bit used.
Yes, and that stems directly from that transactional thing we mentioned.
Yeah.
You offer the yes, the help, maybe hoping for that hit of validation.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't come, or doesn't feel like enough, you feel, cheated. Like, I did all that, and still.
But the most serious cost, especially for adults trying to navigate work and life, it's the moral compromise.
Absolutely critical. You simply can't keep bending to please everyone without eventually making choices that clash with your own core beliefs.
Can you give an example?
Sure, think about work. Maybe you see a policy that you know is unfair to your colleagues, but speaking up means conflict. It means risking your reputation as the easygoing one.
Right.
So you stay quiet. That silence, that's a compromise and chips away at your integrity.
Yeah.
This isn't just high school peer pressure. Adults face it constantly, just in different arenas.
That's a really important point. It's sacrificing integrity for what? comfort, acceptance.
Often, yeah.
Mm.
Perceived safety.
So, okay, for listeners having those aha moments, this isn't always about huge, dramatic choices. It often creeps into the small stuff, right? Everyday decisions.
Oh, absolutely. One of the clearest signs is struggling to really trust your own judgment unless someone else signs off on it first.
Like needing backup.
Exactly. Needing constant reassurance. Maybe you've already made the decision, bought the thing, taken the job,
Yep.
but you still need like 4 friends to say it was okay before you can actually feel okay about it.
Yeah.
You're basically outsourcing your own conviction.
And we see that in tiny interactions, too, like feeling you have to give a whole long explanation every single time you say no to something.
Yes.
The backstory part.
Or over-explaining why you prefer coffee over tea, or apologizing like crazy for setting a totally reasonable boundary.
Mm-hmm. And it begs the question, doesn't it? Why do we feel this intense need to justify every little choice we make for ourselves?
Yeah. Why?
Well, psychologically, it's often because the person seeking approval fundamentally believes their own preference isn't enough, isn't valid grounds for action on its own. They fear that just saying, no, I don't want to, or I choose this, will make them seem selfish or difficult. So the long backstory becomes this preemptive defense against judgment.
Wow. So you're not just making the choice, you're trying to manage the other person's reaction to your choice. That sounds exhausting. It is exhausting. It's a constant internal negotiation.
Okay, so if this is a pattern, maybe a deep one, what's the way out? How does someone start reclaiming that autonomy we talked about?
It really starts small. It's not about some grand overnight transformation. It's about building a practical muscle, slowly.
Okay.
We call it practicing small no's. The core skill is learning to say no without immediately drowning in guilt or launching into that detailed defensive story. The focus has to be on short, clear answers.
Easier said than done, though, right? Because that guilt, that little panic that hits when you just say, no, that won't work for me, it feels intense.
It does. That's the withdrawal kicking in. Your brain's alarm system is saying, warning, risking approval.
Yeah.
But instead of the long excuse, oh, I can't because the dog needs walking and I think my car's making a funny noise and my cousin might visit, the practice is to use simple, direct phrases. No, that won't work for me right now. Or, sorry, I have a conflict, full stop.
And learning to sit with the discomfort that follows.
That's the key. Tolerating that discomfort. Realizing that the guilt doesn't necessarily mean you did something wrong. It's just the old pattern protesting. You have to trust that genuine relationships can handle your honest boundary.
It short circuits that whole internal negotiation you mentioned.
Precisely. It reclaims your voice in that moment. And look, you can still care deeply about other people's feelings.
Yeah.
This isn't about becoming uncaring.
Right.
It's about checking your motive. That's the crucial step. In any situation, ask yourself, am I doing this out of genuine care and capacity, or am I doing it mostly out of fear? Fear of them being upset, fear of disapproval.
The motive check, I like that.
And that check works best when it's built on a stronger foundation, which means we also need to reframe some core ideas in our heads.
Like what?
Like fundamentally separating the idea of approval from the idea of respect.
Okay, tell me more. We often mush those together, don't we?
We really do. We think if someone doesn't approve of our choice, they don't respect us. But you can absolutely respect someone's perspective, their needs, their experience, even if it's different from yours, without needing their explicit stamp of approval on your life choices. They're separate things.
That's a really powerful distinction. Respect doesn't require agreement.
Exactly. And another crucial separation, love versus permission.
Ah.
You can love the people in your life profoundly, family, partners, friends, without needing their permission to live authentically, especially on big things like career moves or where you live or personal growth. If the love is real, it should be able to handle your autonomy.
It shouldn't be conditional on you staying small or staying the same.
Precisely. Which leads us to a kind of guiding principle here. Let's call it the freedom principle.
Okay.
Simple, really. A boundary doesn't need a backstory.
Say that again.
A boundary doesn't need a backstory. It's enough that the boundary is honest and ideally delivered with kindness. You don't actually owe anyone a detailed justification for how you manage your own time, your energy, your life.
That feels, well, freeing, just hearing it. It lets you step off that anxiety treadmill.
It makes you the authority in your own life again.
So wrapping this up then, the real insight here seems to be that this whole people-pleasing thing, this approval addiction, It's actually less about what other people need from you and much more about managing your own internal fear. Fear of rejection, maybe fear of conflict, fear of abandonment.
That's the core of it.
And that means true strength, real freedom. It only really comes when you start making decisions based on your own integrity, regardless of whether you get applause or maybe face a bit of temporary disappointment from others.
Beautifully put. And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over this week, especially as you try out those short, clear answers. Consider this. Saying yes to everything might buy you short-term approval, but only saying yes to the right things and having the courage to say no to the wrong ones, that's what wins you true, lasting freedom.
That's powerful. Start with that motive check today. See what you notice. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
I actually found it easier to stand up to peer pressure in high school than it is to navigate this whole approval addiction thing as an adult. The expectations were more obvious back then. And teenagers generally respect someone who's true to their own values and who goes against the flow. In the grown-up world, to me at least, it seems like the pressure to conform is more subtle. You feel it in small ways and in that quiet disapproval, and I think that makes it harder to be your own person. So this week, I'm going to ask you to do 2 things to improve in this area. First of all, stop over-explaining when you have to say no. You don't need someone's permission for why you can't or won't do something. Instead, practice saying something like, "Sorry, that won't work for me," and then leave it at that. It's going to seem really harsh in your own ears, but doing this is going to be a great chance for your own personal growth. And then, here's the second thing, start trusting your own judgment. You don't need someone else's approval to make decisions. Getting counsel is extremely wise, but seeking validation and approval is totally different. So stop asking other people to decide if your choice is right or wrong. Even if the end result is less than perfect, let it be your choice and not someone else's. People-pleasing is really built into us deeply, at least for most of us. So it's going to be tough to change, but remember, we're not talking about fixing everything in one day. This whole podcast is about how small, intentional decisions build over time to make you into the person you want to be. Don't aim for perfection, just focus on improvement. One small choice, practiced consistently, is better than trying to fix everything at once. So let's work on this together. Focus on those small things I mentioned and see how you do. And I'd love to hear your feedback. Please leave a comment or send an email. If this has been helpful, share it with a friend. They might need it too. And of course, please like and subscribe so we can keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Steady Steps podcast, thoughtful moments and practical insights to help you walk a more intentional path. This show is written and produced by Brian Volpone with M1016 Productions. Our theme music is generated with Mubert. AI voice performances and discussions are supported by Notebook LM, Gemini, and ChatGPT. You can learn more, listen to past episodes, or get in touch at steadystepspodcast.com or email us at any time at steps@steadystepspodcast.com. Thanks for listening and keep taking steady steps.